He leads us all the way, playing proper football, the Sheff United way. Ale, 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 ale.
Well, it's more like jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to see United win away. Hey, so we're going to review that 2-0 win away from home in the Welsh capital at Cardiff City. United top of the tree. It really is great to see. That's probably it from me, but certainly when it comes to rhyming. I want to know your thoughts on the game. Get them in the comments. My name is Hal. Thank you for watching. If you're listening to this as an audio podcast, thank you very much for doing that as well. We go initially to the lineup where it was a fairly predictable lineup. Cooper in goal, Gilchrist, Suter, Jackie Longthrow, Burrows, Jezrin Raksaki, Peck, Tom Davies, Harmer, O'Hare, and Moore. The former Cardiff man, he played 66 times for the Bluebirds and scored 25, and they would give him the boo boy treatment, and he would respond in the only way you actually can. And I always think it's one of the best ways to do it. We'll get to the goals, but we'll talk about the fact that Cardiff were playing a 3-4-1-2, which ended up kind of being like a 10-0-0. Referee Darren Bond, he was the ref when we drew with Coventry City away, and he did not send off Bassett, who I felt like he should have done, but he did send off Anil Ahmedhodzic, who's now been out for ages, not just with the suspension, but by the sounds of it, with injury as well. If we begin with the first half, I think people will know whether you were there or not. Windy, cold, not great conditions for a flowing game of football. And the Blades kept their shape very well, not just early on, but throughout this game, a shape that would change. We kept possession. It was good to see Callum O'Hare draw fouls. That's one thing he's really good at. Gus Harmer also doing the same. He likes to come in from that left-hand side. He likes to get a lot more involved, float about, see as much as the ball as he can. He likes to get a lot more involved, certainly, than Jezrin Raksaki on the right. On 8 minutes, I counted that Cardiff literally had 10 men behind the ball. That is 8 minutes into the game, and United were not deep into their half. It was a very, very defensive display early on from the home side, and it would end up being a very, very defensive display from the home side, arguably throughout. I mean, Chris Willock in the first half looked like their only creative outlet, although he did like to go down very easily looking for a foul. We saw that a few times from other Cardiff players as well. Thankfully, Darren Bond wasn't fooled easily. What did you make of the referee's performance overall? He did get a few things wrong, but actually I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as he was in that Coventry game. 14 minutes before we had the match's first shot, and it actually came from Cardiff, which was a bit of a surprise. The Greek Siopsis, who I thought not just sounding like something you definitely don't want to have, but also I thought he was one of their better players, but I didn't expect Cardiff to be the ones that had the first sort of speculative effort, and it was a speculative long ranger, straight at the 13 clean sheet before today, make it 14-man. Michael Cooper from outside the area, goes by Mike Cooper on Twitter, so maybe we should be calling him Mike. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What it does matter is he's an excellent goalkeeper and he dealt with everything really well in this match. We actually played better, I thought, than against Plymouth Argyle. Let me know if you agree with that. Certainly early on, without creating much, we were the first half team in ascendancy. I also want to give a special mention to Peck. I really like the way Peck receives the ball and instantly looks up. He assesses his options. I also like his aggression and how much he gets involved, because he is kind of like everywhere. Although I don't ever really feel like he's going to score, but he is everywhere in terms of like that across the middle and drop him back kind of thing. You'll have to bear with me a little bit. Got a bit of a throat today. It is the season, so I'm trying to muddling through. I'm sure plenty can relate. Harmer had a couple of decent efforts in the first half. Tom Davies had a deflective effort on 28, a side footer after a decent cross from Kieffer Moore. That was cleared. The target for Kieffer Moore's cross, I remember this, was Callum O'Hare in the middle. That was then cleared. Davis doesn't seem afraid of having a pop. Had a pop in this instant, got deflected, but it's good to see. And he had a few efforts. And this was not a first half for the neutral by any stretch. Jezrin Raksaki was drifting out of the game, getting isolated. Then suddenly he would kind of burst into life. But life of a winger, I guess. He's been a little quiet of late. And I don't know about the situation, because Andre Brooks, seemingly from Wilder's presser, not been training hard enough to push for a start. I like what I saw of Andre Brooks playing in the middle last season, and I like what I saw of him pre-season and early on this season on the wing. I feel like he's got more versatility than Jezrin Raksaki. He's also a blade, and that means that whilst it shouldn't count for too much, it does mean he's probably going to give absolutely everything. And there are times when I felt like Jez hasn't been doing that. And if Brooks isn't chopping at his heels, and Wilder's made it clear that Brooks is that far out of the pecking order because he's not training properly, there isn't that fire underneath Jezrin Raksaki. There isn't that pressure on him because Brooks, it doesn't seem like is going to get a look in, and maybe have to go out on loan in January. Who knows? I do feel like there's a real player in there, certainly bags of potential. Maybe if he goes out on loan, I'll be proven wrong. We'll see. Now, as the first half was drawing to a close, I just wrote, we need a different type of striker to play alongside Kieffer Moore. We need a change of formation for the second half. Now, the reason I wrote that is we didn't look like scoring. And it really was kind of slow, pedestrian, predictable stuff. The pitch looked very slow too. The weather was not conducive, as I said earlier, to good football. Referee Darren Bond only added on 1 minute. He was as bored as the rest of us with that first half. Mate got a yellow for a foul on Tom Davies, and the half would end with a free kick to United, which came to nothing. We should have got a corner, but he blew for half time. And 0-0, it was a reminder for me, certainly that first half, of Portsmouth away. United having a lot of the ball, like in that game. In fact, in this one, at the half, I saw we had 70% possession, 12 touches in the opposition box. Cardiff had only managed 4, but we weren't doing enough with the ball. At the close of that first half, it was a case of, right, let's regroup. Do we need to change things? Yes, was the answer to that. We actually came out without changing things. No substitution changes, no formation changes. The home side didn't change anything either. I was surprised that Jezrin Raksaki came back out for that second half, and possibly he was given instructions to get involved more. So he cut inside and left his traditional wide role, which he'd been just occupying and standing in for almost the entirety of the first half. And at the start of the second, he came inside to get more involved and instantly lost possession. I'm not having a go at him. I'm just stating the facts and the things that I saw. Livewire Willock for Cardiff, he left the game injured, and I felt for Cardiff like that was really their main man in terms of creating something, with him going off and Colwill replacing him on 48. Thus went their threat. And United did have a shot. I know we weren't having too many early on in this game, and certainly at the start of the second, it was more of the similar stuff that we'd seen to the first half. It was going to take something special to change this game, but we had a shot at Ornick's goal, a decent save down to his right. That was on 49. Peck went into the book straight after that on minute 50, the first United player in the book after a tangle of legs with El Ghazi, who I thought was decent for Cardiff on that left-hand side. And United, again, still having plenty of the ball in the second, as well as the kind of pattern of the game continuing. But it was very congested in the box because Cardiff were just putting so many men back. They continued to get loads of bodies back behind the ball, didn't make for a good view, and they tried to hit United on the counter. That was obviously their plan, but they weren't able to do that. And Tom Davies with a decent header on 58. He was looking United's most threatening attacker. El Ghazi, the Dutchman, had a sighter from 30 yards for Cardiff, and it went just wide of that right-hand post. Gilchrist was fouled by bagging on the hour and got a yellow, and United would then make changes. And this is where the game would change. The first, Brewster on for Jezrin Raksaki, and a change in style, a change in formation, what I've been crying out for, eventually happened. And then we got that goal, 65 minutes, one of the contenders for goal of the season. Kieffer Moore scored against his old club. The booing would only continue. The patience for United paid off, and a lovely finish on the chest from a Gilchrist cross and a volleyed finish on his left, under pressure from the defender who was holding his shirt. It was great composure from the front man, and no less than United deserved. A really top-class finish. Technically, a really good goal to watch. Strength, skill, awareness. He knew his shirt was being pulled. Lesser players would stop and appeal. He just carried on. And it was only moments later, there wasn't too much else that happened in the game, 73, when we had the second goal. Kieffer Moore had another quality strike on 73. He took the ball into the middle of the field. I think it was 6, maybe 7 touches as he brought the ball forward and then fired. And it rippled the back of the net. He is far from just a target man. And he reacted in a really cool way as well. He was really calm. There's a saying in American football, act like you've been there before. And that's exactly what he did. It was very much a kind of like, that's what I expected to happen. And United had a 2-goal cushion. And I felt really comfortable after that. I like Sam McCallum as well. He came on and played left midfield. Moore went off just after that goal, so there was no chance of him getting a hat-trick. I never know how players on a brace feel about that, but he was probably absolutely exhausted, having been out injured for a little while. And we also saw former Unitedite Callum Robinson brought on for Cardiff, so I knew they wouldn't score. And it looked like we were going 4-1-4-1. Jackie Longthrow, probably got to mention it, even though he's been pretty good. Apart from that mistake against Sunderland, he made a bit of a clanger in this game and gave Cardiff the ball in the box. And I think a better side would have used that. It allowed them to create something from nothing, but United recovered. I think they eventually got called offside. But McCallum was incredible again. He's got that big leap. He had a header from a corner on 79. I wrote this down because even though it went over, he nearly had his second United goal. And he can just jump like no one else I've ever seen. I think he's got the best jump of any Sheffield United player. It's just some spring. Norrington Davis came on for Jackie Longthrow. So many players with Davis or Robinson in their name on the team sheets today. Also, I want to take a quick moment to mention the great away support from the travelling faithful. I remember going to this stadium loads of times, but also their old ground, Ninian Park. And I recall an FA Cup match there. We won 1-0, I think back in like 2004. That was back in the day when I did every game home and away, and I wasn't going to miss. I think it was like an FA Cup third or fourth round game. It was like last one of match of the day. Not an exciting one. There's about 10,000 people there. Chief Wayne Allison scored, and it was me, like a very small pocket standing behind the goal of Blades fans. And it was just great to see, because of course, standing now an option for so many at grounds in the Championship. It just took me back. Different times. Harmer and O'Hare, they really do have a nice understanding, don't they? And it's worth talking about, the link-up. And actually, speaking of Callum O'Hare, the midfielder nearly scored with a lovely curling effort from the box, from the left-hand side in the final minutes of this game on the 90, saved by Ornick. That chance was actually set up with a beautiful back heel from Harrison Burrows. I'm not sure Burrows gets enough praise. We threw it out on X, or Twitter, the artist formerly known as, best player this season. And Harrison Burrows got very little love on the responses there. Most people saying, understandably, Vinny Souza, and I think absolutely. But I was expecting more people to mention Burrows' name, even just in dispatches. But maybe seems to have got under the radar a little bit. I've been really impressed with him. Baptiste came on for Gilchrist. A chance for us to see the new defender, formerly of West Ham. And he did make a fantastic block to deny a long ranger for Cardiff. I've got a video that I did on this channel about Baptiste. If you do want to check it out, it's good. It's got a few jokes in there because I had time to write them. Brewster brought down on 92 and a real case for a penalty here. This, for me, was as blatant a penalty as they come. He was about to shoot and he was bundled over, but Darren Bond didn't give it. Now, if we'd been 0-0 going into that, I'd have been absolutely furious. I'd have been apoplectic with rage had that blatant pen not been given. But as the kids say, we moved. Brewster had his hair grabbed by Chambers. It wasn't going well for Rian. He should have had a pen, couldn't get his shot away. Then he had his hair. He hasn't got the kind of hair which you can pull easily. But Chambers had a go at the death. And the ref just wanting a word. Could well have been more. Thought it should have been. Full time, though. Full time whistle blew. I thought we deserved it. Cardiff 0, Blades 2. United remain top of the tree for Christmas. Our 50th point of the season. Forget -2. And Cardiff, in the relegation mire, they looked a poor side. I'm going to be honest, if you're a Cardiff fan watching this, I thought you were really poor. But on paper, got some good players. So I'm really surprised that they are down there. And they really are down there. So let's go and have a look at some of your comments on that game. What did you make of it, Blades? Let me know. Very solid away performance. That says Justin. Potential to be a tricky game. It was a banana skin fixture, but quality always tells in the end. Delighted for Kieffer Moore, top of the tree at Christmas. Hal, have you seen Prince Abdullah's tweet? I have, yes. Maybe a goodbye. The last win for him while he's in charge of the Blades. I think that's what that tweet suggests. If you haven't seen it, he's saying every Sheffield United win, I'm doing this from memory, is special, but this one extra special, something along those lines. And I think that's exactly what that means. I think that suggests to us that the takeover is going to be confirmed. It's been one of the worst kept secrets in football in recent weeks. Kieffer Moore, Avalon d'Or. Is it like a Ballon d'Or, but slightly different? No, yeah, you corrected it there. I prefer Avalon d'Or. It sounds like something that someone would knock on the door, and a bit like Avon, you'd get Avalon. Imagine booing a player who had a record like Moore did. Chris, you're absolutely spot on. But that's football, isn't it? It's almost like you just get a case of like, oh, I remember he used to play for us. Boo! Down with this sort of thing. In its Panto season as well. We just keep winning. It's awesome. What a squad Wilder has built, says the Saint. I agree with that. And think about how low we were as fans, and it must have been as players as well, last season. Like, we were a laughing stock in the Premier League. And I do think, like, a lot of people say we didn't really have much of a chance because of the business we did or didn't do. I think you've got to look at the teams that have gone up, like Southampton. Like, they've done good business, in my opinion, and they're going to go down. And they've just spent a load of money and they'll be in trouble next season. I do think there's a fine balance, because do you want to do a Forest? Arguably, you could say, yes, sign 21 players and spend an absolute fortune. But if you do a Forest and you go down, you are totally screwed. So, you know, there is a fine balance. And I think Sheff United, if anything, we were victims when we went up last time of doing so well that time when we previously went up and finished ninth. And then I think a lot of people were still blaming COVID for the season that followed, when in reality, we saw the reality of where our squad actually was and not being able to replace Jack O'Connell. It's no coincidence Moore got the goals when we went to 2 up front. I completely agree, Chris. I think he always looks best. I did a video on Moore when we were signing him about how good he is and his stats when he's playing alongside another striker. In many cases, a nippy striker. I'm not saying we go with the big man, little man thing that Warnock was such a big fan of, but the stats actually don't lie that Moore as a lone striker doesn't always work. When he's got someone alongside him, I think it just relaxes him. It makes him think, like, if I lose possession here with a flick on or a chest, there's someone else around me to pick up the pieces. When he's on his own, he's got to keep that ball. So I do think it helps him. My conspiracy is Anel is fine, says Stephen. Just been granted a bit of time off with the baby. In return, we get another year out of him. Interesting conspiracy theory. I don't believe it, but it's possible. Largely because I never believe any conspiracy theories. It's not really my thing. But it's good. It's a good shout. Possible. What do you think? Let me know. So we look so pedestrian at times, and what we lack in excitement, we make up for in results. Do you know what? It absolutely is the main thing. Kieffer Moore scores in slow-mo. That's tickled me, that. But actually, I mean, that first goal is just absolute quality. If you get a chance to see it again, okay, yeah, fine. You might think that a lot of things he does are slower than some strikers. Yeah, he's not, Neymar in his prime or Mbappe, sure. Largely, he doesn't often play on the wing. But he does do things that are sometimes absolutely technically fantastic and proves his quality. And we don't have another striker like him. And I know there's been rumours that we were looking at someone like Ashley Barnes, who's going to be, 35, 36 next year, slower than Moore. Just imagine that whole thing would be in slow-mo, the whole front line. Okie Blade says, dominated throughout the game without any real threat. Agree with that again, except for 2 bits of more quality. Do we need a quality striker or midfielder to change the attacking momentum? Yes, we do. I think the deals we're going to do in January will be crucial. I would like to see an alternative option up there. I think because these are non-repeatable actions, these goals. I've said this so many times before. These aren't training ground goals. These are special moments. And you can't keep winning games with special moments and great goals and long-range strikes and wonder goals. You've got to win games with crafted team moves and goals that come from things that you've trained and practiced. And you need players around Kieffer Moore that can help him and that can create more. So I think we'll bring in a midfielder to replace Ollie Arblaster, because the spine of the team at the moment, without Anel, without Sousa, without Arblaster, without Campbell, it isn't there. So we need them. And there's going to be more injuries. There's going to be more suspensions as the season goes on. So a minimum of 2 need to be brought in. A midfielder to replace Arblaster and a striker. I don't know what kind of striker Wilder wants, but maybe someone who can float about and play on the wings as well. I've speculated already on our transfer roundup video that Ben Brereton Diaz would be a player like that. And we already know what he can do. Burrows, Raksaki, and Callum O'Hare. Poor Peck playing in the middle of the back 2 wide. I mean, sometimes he was dropping back Peck quite a bit, and that maybe isn't always necessary, but I do like the way Peck plays. I think there's a really, really good player there. Good result. Cardiff were poor. They absolutely were. Oh, it's great to have Travelling Blade in the mix, who is no doubt absolutely slaughtered as we speak. Chris says, Anel, Sousa and Campbell all out, literally missing this. Well, sometimes we read each other's minds, the spine of the team, and still producing the results. Still producing the goods, still top of the tree, still going great guns. I'm so happy. You can't actually see, but there's loads of blades-related stuff on this tree, but the camera isn't quite good enough to pick any of it out. You just have to take my word for it. And don't worry, the shirts, they will return to this bit after Christmas. All I've got to say is every video I've been doing recently has been massively dated by having a tree in the background. A bit like when we interviewed Anel Ahmedhodzic on this channel and he had his Christmas tree in the background. Although in fairness, we did do that interview quite a long time after Christmas or before. I can't remember. It wasn't Christmas anyway. All I want for Christmas is to be top of the league. Well, you absolutely are. Merry Christmas to all Blades. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Do give us a review on Apple, iTunes. If you have had a chance to check out our audio podcast, we're up to 83 episodes this year alone. Absolutely incredible. Deserves checking out. Cheers.
Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole.